Everybody knows Superman, not just nerds! He is more than a character, he is a symbol, one who is synonymous with everything from superheroes to truth, justice, and the American way. When you take into account the vast history of the character, it's not such a surprise that the symbol on the chest has a past that's taken some surprising left turns that would seem totally out of character even to the most casual observer. As such, I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 10 things DC wants you to forget about Superman. Number 10. Not a Superboy, not yet a Superman. Nowadays, we know the younger years of Superman by the name of Smallville, as the Kryptonian orphan was raised by the kindly Ma and Pa Kent, who gave him the Earth name Clark and raised him to be a fair, even-handed and well-rounded young man, who just happened to be the most powerful being on Earth. In the Golden and Silver Age, meanwhile, things were different, as between the 40s and as late as the 80s, Superman spent his childhood as Superboy, complete with a miniature version of his famous blue and red costume and adventures more suited to a pre-teen superhero. Realizing it may be just a little cringeworthy, that history was eventually written out during Crisis on Infinite Earths. Number 9. All the times he was a super dick. And I ain't talking about his private time with Lois. Ho! When he wasn't enjoying the treasured memories of his superpowered childhood, the adult Superman of the Silver Age took time out of his lifelong commitment protecting humanity to be a total douche to his friends, peers, and loved ones just because he could. That's a bully. That's what a bully does. There's a whole list of times Superman was a real jerk, from playing off his warring sweethearts Lana Lang and Lois Lane against one another, to the times he belittled and straight up tortured super friends Batman, Aquaman, and Green Lantern. What a knob! Number 8. He doesn't need armor. One of the many things Superman received in his redesign with the New 52 was a tweaked costume. Gone were the underpants over tights, and instead he was decked out in a sleek, cool new blue suit that had some sort of armored look to it, and that's exactly what it was. Clark's narration reveals that his outfit is a piece of Kryptonian biotech, which is, for all intents and purposes, a suit of armor, which makes sense, because so far as we know, the people of Krypton didn't have much in the way of superpowers. As Superman on Earth, though, it makes less sense, because he's Superman. He is bulletproof, he can fly faster than the speed of sound, he gets thrown through buildings so regularly that he's one away from a free 6-inch sub. But armor. Yes, better get him some armor. Number 7. One time, he was in a porno. Oh yeah, speaking of Superman being a jerk again, when he wasn't messing Lois and Lana about, he was f***ing another guy's wife. Not just a random guy either, but Mr. Miracle of the New Gods, and sometime friend of the Man of Steel. In a spectacularly weird story in the post-Crisis Superman title, the alien porn mogul Sleaze, that's his real name, decided he could make a little pocket money by getting a hypnotized Big Barda to sleep with Superman. Thank goodness these things always get stopped in the nick of time. Oh wait, no, Superman really did have sex with Big Barda, but afterwards the pair managed to shake the mind control and put an end to Sleaze's pervy plans, which is fine. Hooray! I've seen it, by the way. It was naff. I suppose you could call it a shit Superman porno for wackers. Hashtag shit Superman porno for wackers. Number 6. Lois Lane and that whole thing. Clark Kent / Superman and Lois Lane were a star-crossed pairing for the ages. The constant romantic confusion as Lois pined for Superman, whilst wholly dismissing her Daily Planet co-worker without realizing they were one and the same. You idiot! He's just wearing glasses! It wasn't until the 90s, in fact, that Lois finally learned for good that Superman was Clark and vice versa, and the pair finally tied the knot. The status quo in the New 52 is a little more complicated than that, though. Instead, the new pairing is Superman and Wonder Woman, a coupling which has been splashed over multiple pages and covers depicting the lovers making out in space. Lois has since been relegated to Clark's journalist colleague, who treats him with a little more respect and then goes home to her cat, crying as she gulps from her 6th glass of wine. She thinks about the gun in her drawer. Will tonight be the night, she wonders? No. Your cats need you, Lois. Number 5. That Superman Returns was ever a thing. Bryan Singer once made a Superman film, except it wasn't really a new Superman film, and more of a love letter to the first two 70s adaptations of the character starring Christopher Reeve. Continuing from where Superman 2 had left off, Singer cast Brandon Routh in the unenviable position of playing the same character as Reeve without so much as doing an impersonation. It was supposed to be set a couple of years after a film made in 1980, yet was full of modern language, styles, and technology. Lois Lane had a child with another man, moving on whilst Clark was in self-imposed space exile, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah. It was rubbish. Who knows what he was thinking? Number 4. The time he died. When it happened, the death of Superman was a pretty big deal, as you imagine it would be, both in the DC universe and real life. And that's exactly what it was designed to do, to get comics mainstream publicity in the way that it hadn't had in years. And man, did it pay off. Looking back though, it's clear that the marketing angle was cooked up long before the quality of the story was considered, and as such, the death of Superman is kind of a dud, despite such a provocative title. The one to claim the supposedly indestructible hero's life was Doomsday, a character who didn't really have any motivation or anything remotely interesting going for him. He was just a big, tough beast who was strong enough to survive 6 rounds with soups and emerge victorious. You'd have thought dying and coming back to life is something you'd never stop going on about, but nah. Number 3. The time he came back to life as 2 people and was electric. Oh, for f***'s sake. Something that's spoken of even less than the death of Superman was the eventual, inevitable return of Superman. Not long after his resurrection, there was a storyline where Supes stopped getting power from the sun, so instead got them from electricity for reasons. So his powers became electricity-based, and he got a new electric blue look, complete with sparks trailing behind him wherever he went. But that's not all. They then decided to split him into 2 distinct beings, with each Superman believing himself to be the original. Blow raspberry. Oh, right. Number 2. The underwear years. Superman's costume has been a source of contention for years, even before all the controversy over his current armored getup. There was a reason that the original costume was so daft, at least to modern eyes. His initial outfit was inspired by the closest relatives the hero had in real life, circus strongmen and wrestlers, who could easily be picked out, if not for their manly physiques, then for the fact that they wore big, nappy-like trunks and sometimes skin-tight leotards. Makes sense, but still seems a bit silly looking back. For decades, there has been an increasingly vocal group of fans who wanted the trunks to disappear from both Batman and Superman's costumes, and now they've gotten their wish. Having made such a step forward, and as it followed in all their adaptations, it seems unlikely DC are ever going to harken back to the old underwear pervert days. Number 1. He used to be a socialist superhero. Feel the burn, America! Is that still a thing? The world's first modern superhero was created in 1938 by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, a couple of Jewish kids with leftist sympathies after growing up being bullied and otherwise victimized for who they were. So of course their greatest creation, the Ubermensch, was a bit of wish fulfillment, a character who could stand up against not only those who had wronged them, but all the perceived wrongs in society at that time. Superman, in his initial appearances, wasn't just a passive character who reacted to villainous wrongdoings and crimes. He was an active force for change who sought out corruption, oppression, and the like, and bloody well did something about it. This Superman was more of a mouthpiece for Siegel and Shuster to address some of the societal imbalances and problems they saw in their own lives. Now, there was a brief, shining moment when the character's reintroduction in the New 52 saw a young, brash Clark Kent coming to Metropolis to bring down nasty capitalist scum Lex Luthor, but that was quietly dropped in favor of a more traditional genre fare. And to be fair, with the likes of Darkseid and Doomsday running amok, he has a lot on his plate nowadays. And that's our list. Are there any we missed off? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching.